our Lord Lieutenant here in the county of Greater Manchester. It's my pleasure to do that. And of course, I bring my own wishes at the same time to what I know will be a wonderful evening of celebration. And I would like to congratulate everyone who's been involved since 2017 when CALM was created. The achievements, I think, over the years have been quite memorable. And I know that the initiatives looking forward will be both transformational and motivational for many, many people in the community. And I'm looking forward especially to learning more, seeing more, and having a very enjoyable evening. But certainly on behalf of Warren and myself, on behalf of Her Majesty, we wish everyone involved this evening a wonderful event and something that will, I'm sure, raise all our spirits. Thank you.
Paul, thank you very much indeed. Unfortunately, I don't know why we couldn't see a picture of you, but we got your name.
Thank you.
Just as good. Thanks a lot, Paul. Now, Faye mentioned STEM, and let me just bring this up because I want to get it absolutely right. STEM is from a wide range of science, volunteers from a wide range of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, hence STEM, related jobs and disciplines across the UK. The ambassadors offer their time and enthusiasm to help bring STEM subjects to life, to demonstrate the value of them in life and in careers as well. Hopefully we've got Danielle Walters on with us now. Danielle, are you there?
Yeah.
Danielle, thank you very much indeed. I hope we will be able to see you. I've got a few questions for you. How did you become involved with STEM, please?
How to become involved? I mean, I was always interested in science at school. With all the efforts of my mum, I was able to get into a grammar school and pass my 11 plus. And then, yeah, at school, I just always had an enthusiasm for understanding why things. With all the efforts of my mum, always remember me digging deeper and everything, just trying to get to the bottom of everything. So I think STEM was like something that naturally I like gravitated towards in school. And then as I went to college, it was the natural progression for me to do chemistry, maths, and psychology at A-level. And then for university as well, I did a chemistry bachelor's degree. So it always has like an enthusiasm for learning and specifically with the sciences.
Which uni are you at?
I did my bachelor's degree at University of Nottingham, a 3-year course, but then I went on to do a master's in chemistry at University of Manchester, which I just finished just a year ago. Still yet to graduate though because of COVID and stuff.
Yeah, COVID's affected everything. Let me ask you this. STEM sounds almost scary. I can imagine youngsters being introduced to STEM and then being terrified. Is it terrifying?
No, I don't think it's terrifying if you've got people you can look up to, like something, role models as such that you can look up to who are actually in that field. So a good example for me is at university, although I was like in that field already, I had a black professor and I never really thought about race really when I was growing up, but just seeing him as like an expert in his field was really good for someone to look up to. So I don't think it's scary. I think it can be if you don't know anyone who's in that field, but if you actually have aspirations, then people to look up to, then I don't think it's scary.
And if you don't mind me asking, what are you doing now and what does the future look like for you?
Well, when I was doing my master's, I realized chemistry wasn't really for me. I just hated being in the lab all day and coming out lightheaded. So whilst I was at university, I taught myself how to do computer programming. So that involved like reading books and watching lectures and going to like a bunch of different meetups and like building that network. And then from those networks, I got a knowledge about what certain things to learn and looking up job adverts. So I was then able to get a job at Money Supermarket through like a really difficult interview process. So I'm currently in the T part of STEM, moving away from the S part.
Well, listen, all the very best for the future. thank you very much indeed for taking time to be with us. And maybe down the years when you invent the next big computer thing, you'll deem it able to
Hopefully.
come and talk to us again. All the best.
Sounds good. Bye.
There you go. That's the sound of Daniel Walters, BSc, MSc Chemistry. He's now a data programmer. Our very special guest for this early part of the is the Dean of Manchester, Dean Rogers Govinder. And I'm delighted to say he's a patron of Khan, and he is able to join us now. Dean.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Mike, for inviting me, and thank you to Charles and Khan for inviting me to say a few words. As Mike has said, I'm a patron of Khan, and it's very important that we continue to mark Black History Month. As many of you will know, this event is usually held at the cathedral and was scheduled to be held there tonight. But given the COVID restrictions, it seemed right not to meet in the cathedral, but rather to do this online, which is at one level is regrettable. And yet on another level, we've got to be responsible and keep each other safe. And so I'm glad that we're able to meet online nonetheless. This summer has been an extraordinary summer, has it not? What it has revealed to us with the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as the campaigns, both in the United States and here in the UK, is that by and large, we still have an enormous mountain to climb when dealing with racism and discrimination. Let's not talk about the states. I mean, that's on another level altogether. We need to talk about our own country. Even in my own church, the Archbishop of Canterbury in February this year, in a Windrush debate that I spoke at, acknowledged that the Church of England is structurally racist. And I know for a fact that BAME candidates for senior posts in my church are often not appointed because of issues around race. The very recently appointed Archbishop of York, who has been for many years a member of CMIAC, the Committee for Minority Ethnic Anglican Concerns in the Church of England that I chair, has said repeatedly at our meetings that we need to be dealing with whiteness. We need to be talking about what it means to be white and the privileges that go with being white in this country, and of course, in our case, in our church. So both our archbishops have made these powerful public acknowledgements, and that gives you a small glimpse into what it is like in our broader society. We have so much work to do. I'm very pleased that in our city of Manchester, in the many circles that I work, the groups and committees of the city council and other councils are working very hard to address racism and discrimination in our city. And long may that work continue, but we cannot ever sit back and say it's going to be all right. We have to actively work for equality, for inclusion, for diversity, and for an end to racism in our city, in our incredibly amazing city region of Greater Manchester. Thank you to Andy for his initiative in working on the Equalities Committee and Grouping Commission for our city. Andy, you and others like you are making a huge impact for the good of all of our citizens. So thank you for that. And I want to wish Khan every blessing as it continues to work towards greater equality for our BAME community as we celebrate Black History Month. So thank you, Khan, and wish you all very well. I'm sorry that I can't stay with you very long tonight. So I have a very important Church of England meeting to get onto on Zoom as well very shortly. So if you see me disappear, it's because of that. But I wish you well for tonight. Thank you very much, Mike.
Dean, thank you very much indeed for that. And off you go to your next meeting then. What would we have done these past few months without Zoom? Can somebody tell me, please? Because it's totally unbelievable. Now, we have an apology from our next guest. Professor Laura Sarant, OBE, is the head of nursing, Manchester Metropolitan University, and she was going to join us to recognize Cairns nurses. What she has asked is whether I would be able to read her speech, and it gives me great pleasure to do that. So let me do it now. I would like to take this opportunity to appreciate the role that the Black nurse plays in society today. Many of you have heard the term the Black nurse, the backbone of the NHS. This is because when Britain needed to build the NHS after World War II, many of our nurses came to the call and worked to establish the NHS and are still helping now to deliver the care today. For many, the specific roles of the nurse was unknown before the pandemic. It was when society was at the helm needing urgent, high-quality care through this pandemic that we really saw these nurses step up and deliver what we all needed to look after our loved ones during trying and worrying times. They didn't step back, but stepped up. And many of these nurses are part of this Black History Month celebration today. Today, Cairns is recognizing these nurses. You can see on your screen, just as many others elsewhere. We want to say thank you, a big thank you for all that you're doing to address health inequalities in the Black community in Greater Manchester. For well over a year now, you've shown up at events and screened Black people and identified some very urgent underlying health issues within the Black community. We repeat again, we want to appreciate you and thank you for your ongoing support. The words there of Professor Laura Sarant, OBE, and it gave me great pleasure to read that and say thank you on her behalf, on my behalf as well, to everyone who's doing such a good job in this nursing community. Thank you very much indeed. Next up, and I know he's here because I can see him on the screen, legend of this area, lives, I believe, in Lee, and was the MP for that area before becoming the mayor of Greater Manchester. Please welcome Andy Burnham.
Wow, Mike, what an introduction. I don't feel I deserve that. I thought you were going to introduce Lem Cisse there for a minute, and I heard legend from Lee. Thank you. What a wonderful introduction, as I say, and welcome everybody. Wonderful to be with you all this evening and to follow Dean Govender. I would want just to pay my own tribute to Cairns as well. In my 3 years, Mike, working on the issue of promoting true equality in Greater Manchester, ensuring that the voice of the Black community is properly heard. Cairns have been invaluable to me, I have to say. Charles and his colleagues, the leadership that they've shown, and I hope that we are all on the verge of a moment of change. That's what I'm working towards, and I know it's what many people on this call want as well. So thank you to Cairns. And the first thing I would say in some ways echoes what Rogers was just talking about. You know, Black History Month is always an important moment in the calendar, but of course, particularly powerful and poignant this year, given everything that's happened. The moment that we've lived through this year is obviously something that is profound and is going to change things, and is changing things. Actually, it certainly is going to in Greater Manchester. I can give you my my word on that, and I know we have the Deputy Mayor on the call as well, Mike, and I know I speak for Baroness Hughes as well. I just wanted just to say something about celebration, really, of the contribution made by Black people to Greater Manchester in recent times. I think in terms of the theme of this year, there is a theme of celebration with this year's Black History Month. I know it's about understanding our past history, difficult as that history has been at times and learning from it. We've certainly done some of that this year. It's about navigating the very challenging present that we're in, but then thinking and imagining a better future. And I think that's such an important way of thinking about this year's Black History Month. And actually in doing that, celebrating the change makers that we've already had amongst us over the years and being inspired by all of them. So we were talking about healthcare just a moment ago. Louise Da Kokodia, MBE, was the first Black senior nursing officer in Manchester, who, as a 21-year-old in 1955, overcame all of those barriers in the health service to rise to that position and became a Deputy Lord Lieutenant of Greater Manchester, a celebrated anti-racism campaigner. This week, the BBC, I think, have been focusing on the life of Len Johnson. Many people will know, born in Clayton, a middleweight boxing champion, but more importantly, became an absolute driving force of the civil rights movement, working with Paul Robeson and others. And we think of Len's contribution as we begin to mark Black History Month. Arthur Lewis, the first Black professor in Britain and Nobel Prize winner, who worked at the University of Manchester and did so much to support people in Moss Side and Hume. Arun Mabel, we all will know on this call, who needs no introduction and obviously has been commemorated for her work on gun violence. Lem Sisay, I mentioned, Chancellor of Manchester University, celebrated author. Denise Johnson, I'm sure we will think of tonight, who contributed so much to the Manchester music scene and shockingly in many ways is no longer with us. I'm sure people will be thinking of Denise tonight. And right into the present, you know, all of these people are people who've made history, Black people who've made history, who've made Greater Manchester better. What better example in the present than Marcus Rashford, who I think has emerged as the most powerful voice of his generation, actually, in terms of the way he has spoken about personal experience and using profile for the benefit of young people in Greater Manchester and beyond, actually, who often don't get heard. And really, if you haven't been inspired by Marcus, then I guess, well, nothing will inspire you, because it's been just wonderful to see how he has made such a difference. So we celebrate all of these Black history makers, and in Marcus's case, he's making history right now. And Mike, in my role, I very much kind of think, when I think about Black history, it's not just to celebrate the contribution of the Black community to Greater Manchester, but also to think about how Greater Manchester has always championed true equality. You know, in 2022, it will be the 160th anniversary of the momentous decision by the mill workers of Manchester not to handle slave pick cotton. You know, they were saying all those years ago that Black Lives Matter. And I'm very conscious of that history in my role, extremely conscious of that history, because it's a hell of a history to live up to, isn't it? When you think about that and what they did and what that kind of has left us in terms of a legacy in this city of fighting for true equality. Well, it's a lot to live up to. And the question is, have we been living up to it enough? And I think you could only say that in recent times, no, not enough at all. Myself and the deputy mayor, really been thinking deeply about these things. There is a marked underrepresentation of the Black community in public business and political life in Greater Manchester. I think lip service has been paid over the years, and I think we've been, in some ways, in this year, in this moment, sort of, that has been sort of shattered, if you like, and now everyone can see that things are not as they should be, and a city maybe we've perhaps packed ourselves on the back too much without actually putting in place the action that will make a real difference. So the question is then, just to bring my thoughts and contribution to a kind of conclusion. Well, what is it then that I can do that makes that tangible difference. So, of course, we need to challenge the structural discrimination that we still see. So the Deputy Mayor and I have committed to a racial equality in policing report quarterly, and the first will be published soon, just to have the transparency so that we know what is happening in our city region, and the things that are going on can be challenged and challenged openly, so that we can begin to create the conditions for change. So we've committed to that. Separately, you may know that we are now recruiting a race equality panel. We want all voices from all communities to shape the work of the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, but we're conscious that that isn't the case at the moment. We want to recruit a powerful race equality panel that will challenge the system to go further, faster, and to just tackle discrimination, but to deliver a true equality. Alongside these developments, we are establishing an independent inequalities commission in Greater Manchester under the chairpersonship of Kate Pickett, and we want that commission to look very deeply at the way in which this pandemic has exposed the inequalities of our city region, and to propose remedies for those inequalities, not just in health, but in so many different facets of life. More positively, we've asked Diane Modal to chair the Young Persons Task Force with a view to developing a Young Persons Guarantee. So I'm very conscious that one of the biggest things I can do is make life different for the generation coming through in a way that perhaps it wasn't so different for people of generations above. So we've already taken steps to support young people in Greater Manchester with free bus travel, expanding opportunities, but we want to take this so much further and think about the range of support that young people need. But I have agreed with Diane that one of the outputs of the task force will be to work with Operation Black Vote to establish a leadership, mentoring and support program to bring through people into leadership positions across all walks of life in Greater Manchester. People from within the Black community to challenge that whole question of underrepresentation, and to open doors that are currently closed. And you know, I've got the highest ambitions for this, Mike. I want it to kind of not just be within the political world, but it's obviously got to open doors in the business world, in sport, in music, in law, in finance. And I detect no shortage of goodwill. So I know you're going to hear from Simon later, but I want you to know tonight that my commitment to establishing a programme of the kind that we've seen in London and Birmingham is 100%. And by the time we meet next year for Black History Month, I would hope that programme would be up and running and offering real opportunity to change the way Greater Manchester society works and bring on the next generation of leaders. So, Mike, I will leave it there. Is all of this enough? Probably not. But you know, I am challenging myself now about what more we can do that is in the sphere of action rather than the gestures that politicians sometimes make. I am clear, coming out of the events of the summer, Black Lives Matter. Not something that's something that is now permanent in terms of the discourse of Greater Manchester and our wider public debate. It's clear that it's actions, not words, that will be judged, or in the famous phrase, deeds, not words, that will make the difference. And we will, myself and the Deputy Mayor and others, will be judged by that. One thing I would say as well, when it comes to next year, I have made a commitment to Khan that we should turn this event, or indeed make an event, a full civic event, to commemorate Black History Month within the month every year. So I have made a commitment to do that, and I hope we'll be in a position in 2021 to hold a full civic event to mark Black History Month. and I would want to work with everybody on this call to get that right, and to make sure that it in some ways provides a sort of a symbol of the change that we all want to see with regard to wider Greater Manchester society. So I will leave it there, Mike. It's wonderful to be with you all, as I said this evening. I hope this Black History Month will be like no other in terms of the emotions, the feelings, but also the call to action that will come from it. And certainly that's the spirit in which I'm going into it. And with that, I will hand back to you.
Before you disappear, if you don't mind, can I put a question to you? You mentioned that Black people being underrepresented in lots of walks of life. Unfortunately, they've not been underrepresented in the number of people dying of COVID. Now, I know that that is your big thing at the moment. You're doing a fantastic job. Can you give us a couple of lines as to where we are, please, with lockdowns, etc., in this area?
Yeah, it's really ruthless, isn't it, this virus, in the way in which it is exposing the inequalities in our society. And, you know, for me, what's happening is that the areas where people do not have work that allows them to support themselves and their family and to self-isolate, and it is one way in which it's harming people's health. But then in areas where the housing isn't what it should be, you know, in some ways, these are the places that always should have been leveled up, Mike, by governments of many years gone by and never were. And now they are in many ways exposed to the virus. And, you know, I've been saying to the government that to lock down without support is actually to level down, not level up. And so, you know, we've been living here for the last 9 weeks now under a restriction on gatherings in the home. I am not sure what difference they have made. Maybe some impact in the early stages, but not the impact that justifies them being in place indefinitely, I don't think. But it would seem that the government, having failed, I mean, I apologise if this sounds slightly political, but they haven't fixed test and trace in Greater Manchester, so it isn't working. It feels like the only thing they can fall back on is more and more restrictions. And sadly, those are being loaded more and more on the poorest parts of the country. So the north of England now is pretty much all of it is under restrictions. And yet they aren't providing the support to those communities as they deal with the effects of those restrictions. So I think we're in a really difficult moment, Mike. You know, we're kind of still living through the health crisis. I think the effect of these restrictions is that the economic crisis now breaks over us. And I think we're heading into a winter here where we're going to have both. And so far, the support isn't coming. You know, they're going to cut off the furlough scheme. Businesses aren't getting help in hospitality because of the curfew and the closures. So it's a challenging picture right now. I think, you know, in terms of Greater Manchester, I don't think there's any change imminently, but we obviously will have to watch that. You know, the government, I think, is going to implement changes in Merseyside in the next day or so. We've seen changes in the northeast. Greater Manchester's cases, beyond what happened at the university, have started, it would seem, to flatten a little. So there is some grounds for hope. But I don't think we can run this crisis with an approach that just locks down the poorest communities in our country without support. As I said, that is to level down the country, when instead the promise was that we would be leveled up. And you know, these are the arguments that I'm putting to the government right now, not in a spirit of politics, more in the spirit of what's right and what's fair. You know, to lock down people's lives without giving them support is going to leave us pretty shattered, I think, if we have a whole winter of this.
Well, Andy, can I thank you very much for taking time to be with us today. Thank you for the exciting news about turning this, when this whole COVID thing is resolved, into a civic event, and hopefully it'll be massive. And as for your work on COVID, etc., all power to your elbow, and thanks for the great work that you're doing.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much indeed to the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham. Now, next up, we have a few words from Evelyn Asante Mensah, OBE, who's the chair of Pennine Care NHS Trust. Are you with us, Evelyn, please?
I am. Good evening. Hi, Mike.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
We can't see all of you. Just
Oh,
lift yourself up a bit. There you
okay.
go. That's much better.
Good evening, everyone. I'm absolutely honoured to be here, and I want to thank Khan, Charles, and Faye for inviting me to join you this evening to say a few words. Black History Month, as we know, is an opportunity for us to celebrate the achievements of Black people across all spheres. And it shouldn't just be that we use October to celebrate the achievements of Black people. It should be we should do this all the time and recognise the achievements. It's good to explore our sacrifices and our disappointments over the years, but it's also important to promote and celebrate inspirational Black achievers. We need to have visible role models because they're really important. I came here when I was 5. My parents brought me here because they wanted me to have a better life, and I thank them for that. But they also had conversations with me about how hard I would have to work as a Black child, and I have the same conversations with my children. And along the way, there were many role models that supported me and inspired me. I had a whole list of people who I wanted to hold up, and Andy has said it all, said all the things that I wanted to say about Mrs. Dakakodia and all the other really positive and inspirational people from Greater Manchester. Throughout history, you know that Black people have been present in the UK, but there's been a real lack of representation of this in our history books. And currently, I'm listening to Black and British by David Olusoga, which just from the African diaspora have had for centuries, and not just as slaves. And you can tell a great deal from our society and from a nation by what it deems important to remember. I think over the past few months, we've just seen the impact of the Black Lives Matter movement in a really, really significant way. And the strength of our history and the need to tell the truth behind our history, our whole history, about the statues that we have, the paintings that grace the walls of our galleries. And I think in my sector, I work in the NHS. I chair Pennine Care, which is a mental health trust. And I just wanted to echo what Andy was saying in terms of lack of representation in the boardrooms that making decisions about people's lives. And I would encourage people from our communities to put themselves forward. I know it's difficult, I know it's challenging. We've just been through a number of recruitments at Pennine, and we had to do it really differently because we wanted to get diverse people onto the board and helping us in terms of making our decisions about our services and helping us to link much better to our communities. And I think there's something about us working together. I'm really positive and heartened to hear Andy talk about the work that's going on within Greater Manchester around race and equality. I'm working with our regional health in the Northwest, and we've just set up what we've called a Black, Asian and Minority Ethnic Assembly, which is working with our regional office in terms of the way that we've managed COVID, but also looking at how we tackle inequalities right across the Northwest region. And we can't do it from an ivory tower, either within my trust headquarters in Tameside or in Piccadilly. And we have to engage with our community, that they can also be part of that decision-making process. So I think joining all of that up is absolutely tremendous, and organisations like CAN have a real pivotal role to play. Certainly through the conversations that I've had with Charles and I've had with Faye about how we can work together, I think they bring the voices into spaces where otherwise those voices wouldn't be heard. I think events like this tonight are absolutely crucial. And I think next year, if it's a full civic event, then I think we should involve all sectors of civil society, and we should all come together to celebrate the achievements of people from the African diaspora. Thousands of Black women answered the call 70 years ago to come and work in the health service. And their tale has sometimes been one of struggle to overcome racism and fight in terms of career progression and recognition, and that's just not right. Over the 7 decades, our Black workforce has made a truly tremendous contribution to our health service, but we still battle for equality within the NHS. And COVID has brutally exposed the inequalities and prejudice that have been here for a very, very long time and have existed across our structures and systems and also our behaviours. I think in terms of science, technology, engineering and mathematics professionals, we need more Black people to join the talent pool to develop solutions to huge issues that we face. And I think one of the most memorable times when I first stepped into the boardroom at Pennine was when we had
I think we may
came in was a young man, because far between. From climate, there's a whole range of things that our young people can get involved in, from climate change to agriculture, from software development, as we heard earlier, to finding life-changing cures in medicine. The lack of diversity in science, technology and engineering is a long-standing and well-documented problem, with only 6% of students studying STEM coming from Black communities. So we've got to change things. And part of that, I think, is about us being in the places where decisions are made. I'm a governor at Manchester Metropolitan University. There's 2 of us on the board. That's just not good enough. And I don't know if our people know that they can become governors of institutions like our universities, and we need to look at what support we can give in order to enable that to happen. I just want to celebrate with CAN. I think that they do a tremendous job. I want to work with them as part of the work that we're doing across the Northwest. Through the Assembly. They've been very key in terms of supporting me, and I think that whatever I can do in terms of supporting people from our communities to understand that the boardrooms are not mythical places that they have no place in, but that there are real opportunities, then I would be happy to do it. I think Black history matters to all of us, and it has to matter to all of us, not just us from the African diaspora, but within our country, so that we can actually celebrate the achievements of Black people, and also show people that you can do it. You can come from, you know, Hume and Moss Side. I'm very proud to come from Hume and Moss Side, and do what I do. So I take my hat off to all our young people who are showcasing what they've done this evening. And again, thank you to Khan for inviting me to come along.
Evelyn Asante Mensah, OBE, Chair of Pennine Care NHS Trust. Thank you very much indeed for your kind words, and wish you all the very best for the future. Now, we've had people, so many people joining since I last introduced myself, so let me introduce myself again. My name is Mike Shaft. I'm a broadcaster in the Manchester area, have been for many, many years. I came over to the UK in 1968 from Grenada, from Carriacou actually, which is just off Grenada, and I've absolutely loved it over here. I think we're in very difficult times at the moment, but I know we are going to pull through, and that is what really matters. Our next guests are, we've got a video from them. They are truly amazing. I think I mentioned last time, or the last time I spoke when they were involved, I first saw these guys at a netball event at the Manchester Arena, and I was hosting the event, so I introduced them, having never seen them before, and I was blown away. So if you haven't seen them, I know that you are going to enjoy this. Please welcome the legends, Jet Black. They are from Moss Side, and they are awesome.
Jet Black Carnival online troupe is representing our Caribbean islands to honor our Windrush generation for our British Caribbean heritage. We stand for global love.
Hit them, hit them. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Get up, get up. Get up, get up. Get up, get up. I love it, I love it, man. When I walk in, I just walk up hard. I love it, man. When I walk in, I like my hands on the ground, my hands on the ground, my hands on the ground when I walk in. I like
this one for the girls that the program is lazy and don't run a lot of talk. So let me go. How will you take on something? Take on something. Take on something and tell them. Take on something. Take on something. Take on something and tell them. Now fling it on the ground. Fling it on the ground. Fling it on the ground, girl. Look, fling it on the ground. Fling it on the ground. Fling it on the ground. You know why? Because it is yours. You buy that. Enough other girls can't try that.
Lock me up, he said no run. You must be crazy, that will ruin the fun. Cause it's soca time and we have no behavior. Come to match the place up, we have to run. Run up and down, run, run, run up and down, run. Run up and down, run, run, run up and down, run. Run up and down, run, run, run up and down, run. Run up and down, run, run, run up and down. From a dick, baby, never like to sit up on me.
After we trample for the stage, and let the stage not cool again. Cause we come to mash it up, shell it down and turn it over. We come to mash it up, shell it down and turn it over. Come now we mash it up, shell it down and turn it over. We come to mash it up, shell it down and turn it over.
Press that gas when you're whining, baby. Press that gas when you're whining, baby. Tell me what the fighting for, what they killing for. We don't need no more now. Tell them wicked people, fire go Bundy, fire go Bundy. Oh Lord, I said this is the year for love. Fire go Bundy, fire go Bundy. Oh, say little boy, you ain't bad at all. No.
Jet Black Carnival online troupe is representing our Caribbean islands to honor our Windrush generation for our British Caribbean heritage. We stand for global love.
Your soul clearest at night. Oh, you's a bad man. Bad man is a man who just defend woman and protect the young ones by any means, Lord. Yeah, you're a bad man, boy, now. Yeah, you know.
Absolutely fantastic. Jet Black is their name. And I've got to tell you this story. I'm sorry. At the event I was telling you about before, okay, at netball, we have a mascot. And the mascot dances around very inefficiently because he's not a dancer. And on this occasion, he was absolutely fantastic. And I couldn't believe it. He was dancing all the way down to the stuff that they were doing. It was awesome. Then I realized who the mascot was on that day, and it was the leader of Jet Black. Very, very.
Lot to me because it's a time where we're all actively celebrating our past and our culture.
Black History Month is a time where I think a lot of ethnicities and a lot of cultures can come together to really celebrate Black history, and a chance for Black people ourselves to learn more about ourselves and learn where we come from.
My name's Martha, and what Black History Month means to me is the time where we can deride from the negativity that media tries to push on our community. It's the time where we can focus on the achievements, the talent, the food, everything literally that embodies excellence within our community.
What Black History Month means to me is celebrating the culture of the music. Obviously, I'm a female rapper myself, and all of my influences come from Black female artists in the music industry, and I think it's just great to celebrate it.
Hi guys, I'm Tiaja.
Hi guys, I'm Zaraya from MGTY, and what Black History Month means to me is so much because there's a lot of people that don't really understand our culture, and we don't even understand their culture. So it's not just a time for Black people to come together as one, it's a time for all ethnicities to come together as one and celebrate and learn about each other's culture.
My name is Janisha from the MGT Youth Group. Black History Month means so much to me as both a youth and someone who supports the Black community, because I feel as though more youths need to be educated about Black history and the heritage of their ancestors.
Well, thank you very much indeed to the dancers and our speakers at the end of that as well. Must just mention this, if you'd like to send us a message, we are on chat. There's one here from Beverly Hughes, who's the Deputy Mayor, Baroness Beverly Hughes. She is pleased to associate herself with all that Andy has said and support him in what they are trying to do. Beverly, thank you very much indeed for that. And Adi Juta, I think it is. Thanks, Andy, for the commitment. And we'd like to see its implementation in all the local authorities within the combined services. Some fantastic messages. I will try and drop in a few of those as we go through the evening. Our next guest is the Chief Officer of Greater Manchester Health and Social Care Partnership. Her name is Sarah Price. Please welcome Sarah for her presentation.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for having me this evening at this wonderful celebration. Phil, probably I got the slot after the really exciting dancing, and I hope people won't find what I'm going to say too pedestrian after that. And I think, as the Mayor said, celebrating Black History Month is a really important part of the calendar and something that we need to do at scale, and hopefully next year, as he set out, we'll be able to do it face to face with all civic organisations brought in to support the community. So it provides us with a really great opportunity to shine a light on the contribution that the BAME community make to health and care, particularly those that work within all our health services. As Evelyn says, it's a key part of the delivery of health, those people that work within the services. And we'll be using the opportunity this year to highlight the work that's taking place across the sector to address health inequalities, particularly including the work of the local BAME networks and the individual contributions that staff make to those. So all our organisations are contributing to that. And we'll be showcasing diversity in both roles and across our workforce, hoping to inspire others to consider a career in health and care. And we'll be reflecting as a partnership on some of the events that have taken place this year, including Black Lives Matter, as well as historical contributions of prolific healthcare leaders and events from Mary Seacole onwards. And we'll be also remembering, really, perhaps most significantly, the loss and sacrifice of staff during this pandemic, COVID-19, as we've lost a number of our workforce to this horrible disease. Members of the BAME community make an invaluable contribution to both health and care sector. We would be really lost without the dedication, altruism and compassion of members of the community who play a key role in keeping the country running. So it's vital that we mark these contributions. And across GM, there's been a great deal of work over the last few months to protect those at greatest risk of COVID-19 and to restore services. And we've done this inclusively through accelerated targeted prevention programmes, underpinned by improvements in leadership and accountability, data, insight and collaborative planning. So really trying to understand what's going on in order to make sure we've got things lined up in the right way to support our communities. There are numerous examples from the whole GM footprint. There are a couple, though, that I wanted to particularly highlight that are being put in place to protect the most vulnerable. Test and trace, while it has many faults, and I'd be the first to admit that, I think what we've done in GM is tried through the way that we work in a really collaborative way to take on more responsibility for test and trace. And Andy's been very supportive of that through his COVID committee, to take that on to really focus on sub-regional arrangements that allow us to really support communities and those complex settings that perhaps the wider National Test and Trace Service haven't been able to do. And that's across all 10 localities. So that's supporting each locality to be able to do that work and to manage cases as effectively as we can, because we know that the impact has been disproportionately on some of our BAME communities. So what we want to do is to work with national government colleagues to establish this in an ongoing way and to strengthen and enhance our approach going forward, but particularly to reduce inequality. The deep impact COVID's had on mental health in our BAME communities has left many with worries and anxieties and loss. And we're working with voluntary sector partners, including CON, to commission new services that are specifically targeted to address the mental health and well-being of our diverse communities. And early indications show that they're proving effective. We're seeing about 25% increase in the number of people who are coming forward with mental health problems as a result of COVID. These are new people not known to services before. So really, really important we pick those up. And our voluntary sector partners have been doing an amazing job in this area for some time. So really well placed to step up and to provide this additional support. Really proud of that work, and a brilliant example of how we can do things differently in Greater Manchester through joint working with a vibrant and diverse voluntary sector. One of the things we tried to do as quickly as possible as the pandemic rolled out was to look at risk assessments for our staff, particularly those in GP practices who really were at the front line, as well as those in hospitals. I think the hospitals got a really high profile and were doing that work, but we wanted to do it in primary care as well. We've had one-to-one discussions with all staff working in practices to identify any risk factors affecting individuals, such as those with underlying conditions, etc., and regardless of ethnicity, but obviously that's a really important part. And we developed a best practice guide setting out how to carry out those assessments, and then supporting practices to the different tools and support that's available for those that need that extra help. And that's helped practices identify those who are at high risk and agree what they can put in place to protect people should cases go up again. And unfortunately, we are beginning to see that, aren't we, in GM? And that might be plastic screens in reception, but maybe people working in behind the scenes rather than in front of house roles, or a reduction in patient contact. So for some small practices, these mitigations required a real challenge, especially those where the majority of staff are from BAME communities, and they've struggled with capacity and managing workload. And support has been put in place through our clinical commissioning groups, through the primary care networks and Greater Manchester colleagues to try and ensure they can continue to provide the same level of care to patients. Because we started quite early, we got ahead of that, and I think we knew that this was really important work, put quite a bit of work behind it. And some of the stuff that we're doing at the moment is to look at those who potentially could be at risk from COVID going forward, and those that we know have underlying conditions, but we just don't know about, and what we sometimes call the missing thousands. So we would expect to see a lot more people on our risk registers. So we've been doing some work connecting with people and communities, and using the VCSE sector who are already engaged with those people that perhaps aren't connected in with mainstream health and care services, and we'll want to work with our primary care providers to make every contact count with people to provide support and help, signpost people to relevant services, and to make sure that support's based on local needs and circumstances. And we'll be working with locality commissioners to make sure that we've got GM-wide initiatives across primary care to identify, target and treat those at the highest risk. The other thing that I was going to mention is the work that's been done on the work race equality scheme, and it's really going from strength to strength. And obviously, as others have mentioned, including Evelyn, we're not seeing reflection of our communities in our leadership, boards, and senior staff across the NHS. And we need to change that. We should be more diverse, particularly at the top. And by trying to focus in on that, we hope we'll be able to make some real differences to that, working alongside other organisations in Greater Manchester, including the Combined Authority and local authorities. And we're really committed to making sure that we move forward in this arena, that our leadership does become more representative. And we've recently asked people to support a renewed focus on this across GM, and to really reduce race inequality. And I know Raj Jain's speaking later, and he may well talk about some of this. But we've, since in 2018, our public sector employers across the piece became the first in the country to commit to working to tackling race inequality in the workplace together. So it's that working together, I think, that's so important. And the Northern Care Alliance is the lead on the health side for that. So Raj is at the forefront of that work to support us to deliver the ambition that we've got to really improve representation across our public services. And I hope that next year we'll be able to really feed back some really strong steps forward within this area. So just finally, we've been concentrating on engagement and insight collation with diverse communities across GM, working across our partnership. There's a wealth of insight, including that done by different community groups and voluntary community and social enterprise organisations. And as a result of that, we've been implementing action on mental health, bereavement support for different faith groups, COVID testing in different situations, and impact assessments. And as I say, the workforce race equality standards. So we really want to address this agenda. Thank you for including us in your celebrations tonight, and we look forward to working with you going forward.
Sarah, thank you very much indeed. Sarah is the Chief Officer of Greater Manchester Health and Social Care Partnership. Thank you very much indeed for your presentation. I must just mention this, and I don't know whether you have, but there is a chat box on the side of Zoom. And I really hope that you switch it on, because you'll see the fantastic responses that we're getting from people all over the place. It is fantastic. Thank you to everybody who's getting in touch. I'll read this one from Gail Heath. It says, it's really important to resource organizations like Khan so that they can provide support to emerging Black leaders, coaches, funded mentoring programs, etc. And so they can provide the challenge to other organizations to ensure we all understand and deliver positive action. And the other thing I wanted to mention, by the way, was Evelyn. Evelyn, I hope you've got your chat box open, because everybody loved what you presented. I mean, nobody's mentioned me yet, but there you go. Thank you very much indeed. Now we move on, and hopefully we've got Sasha Enriquez, who is a genetic counselor, talking to us about STEM. Sasha, very good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you very much indeed for taking time to be with us. Now, as I mentioned to our other STEM guests earlier, it sounds really important. So tell me, when you were just getting started in school and college and university, I presume, what was it about that inspired you to go on to be a part of STEM?
I think, like Daniel, I kind of had a passion for science always from the time I was really little. So I remember walking around with Osborne's science encyclopedia, kind of a little thing, just walking around and trying to understand how things work, drawing things on cupboard doors to my mum to explain to her about osmosis and stuff from the time I was really little. So I've kind of just always really had a passion for sciences and for life sciences in particular. So it kind of, everything I did just always had that involved in it.
Tell me about what you're doing now.
So at the moment, and it's kind of a job that no one really knows what I do.
I know.
So I'm a healthcare scientist. So healthcare scientists are the branch of scientists who work in healthcare and use their science knowledge and their science skills to support clinical professionals and to work sometimes directly or indirectly with patients. My specific type of work is called genetic counselling. So I have a background in science, a background in a caring profession. I also have background in kind of science communication. So I work with patients, I work with doctors, and I work with laboratory scientists to look after patients who've had a genetic diagnosis in their family. So something that lots of us will probably recognize are things like sickle cell. So conditions that are passed on in families in that way. There are 8,000 genetic conditions. So I work with patients who are affected by all sorts of things, whether they're in pregnancy, whether they themselves have been affected, whether there's something in the family. So I kind of understand the science and I can communicate it. I can support people's emotional needs through that. And I can work with partners kind of in the medical and in the science field to make sure that patients are looked after.
Now, I don't know how much television you watch, but do you ever see any people from BAME communities doing the work that you do being reflected in characters on television?
So in genetics, so as a Black woman in a science field, you're used to being in the minority. You're used to being the only in the room from university to the workplace. In genetics, it is that times 1,000. I am probably the only Black genetic counsellor that you will meet in this country. There are 5,000 genetic counsellors in the US, 50 of them are Black. And I worked in South Africa, and there are 2 Black genetic counsellors in a majority Black country. So actually, for me, in terms of my industry and what I do, it's really important that I'm here being visible and being a role model, like Daniel spoke about. And that's because it has an impact, not just on the profession, but also on the patients, because that means that the Black community don't know to ask for genetic services. They don't know that genetic services are available to them. They don't get referrals. We're not in the research data. So it's really important that there are more Black people in genetics as a science as a whole.
Probably a final question. What words of encouragement can you give to those youngsters who are drawing things on their parents' cupboards at the moment, at this very moment, to go on and become somebody like you?
I think I've got 2 messages, really. So one of my messages is for the parents of that child. So a really big opportunity for me was my mum believing in me and telling me that excellence was activism, that actually being Black and being excellent is a real force for change. So any parent who sees that talent in their child do everything you can, break down every door and open every opportunity to them. And I think to that young person, I will say, just follow your dreams, speak loud, don't lose your creativity or your passion. There isn't this choice between science and art and communication. Science is just so interesting. There are so many varied jobs and roles. So if, like me and Daniel, you don't like the lab, there are other ways to use your passion for science. So just go for it.
Sasha Enriquez, can I thank you very much indeed for the great work that you're doing and being so inspiring. And thank you for taking time to be with us today.
You're welcome.
The very best. Next up, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Lord Mayor of Manchester, Councillor Abid Latif Chauhan, who's with us once again. A very good evening to you.
Good evening, Mike.
Have you got your camera on? We'd love to see you. There you go.
Hello.
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
There you are. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Can we have your presentation, please?
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, everyone. I am the Lord Mayor of Manchester, Councillor Abid Latif Chauhan. I'm delighted to be invited to the Caribbean and African Health Network's launch of Black History Month. Black History Month started in 1926 in the United States as a way to recognize the achievements of people of African descent. For the last 33 years, Black History Month is celebrated in the United Kingdom. This gives us an opportunity to look back and recognize the huge contribution which African and African Caribbean people have made to life in Britain. Black History Month provides us an opportunity each year to celebrate the success of Black British people in every walk of life. Manchester is a diverse, multicultural, and multi-ethnic city. People of African and African Caribbean heritage make an invaluable contribution to our lives in the UK and our great city of Manchester. From the arts and culture, business and public service, the contribution Black British people make working for our NHS and schools, running or working for small businesses, and volunteering in our communities help to make 21st century Britain the strong and diverse country we are today. I'm delighted to support this launch event that promotes diversity and education of our community. Thank you and have a good evening.
Councillor Chauhan, can I thank you very much indeed for taking the time today. Thank you. Next up, we've got another STEM case study. Have we got Zenny with us?
Hi.
Hi, Zenny. Zenny,
Hi.
And your surname is Anichi, have I got that correct?
Yeah, Zenny Anichi, that's me.
Absolutely brilliant. Now, I've got some questions for you as I had for the others, so I will start off by asking you this. When you were at school all those years ago and just getting started, what was it that happened to you which you think led you to your interest in the STEM subjects?
I've always had an interest in science. I've always been quite good at maths as well. So I've always really loved the challenge, and yeah, I think that's what kind of pushed me into getting to the sciencey route. And then because I have an amazing mom who's actually here on the call as well, she's always kind of pushed me into anything that I was really passionate about. She just said always go for it, and that's what got me into medicine today. And then she has amazing friends and family who are also on the call that pushed me and helped me into get into the medical field. So that's how I ended up in medicine.
Now, your notes tell me that you're a medical student. What does that involve, please?
So I'm a third year medical student at the University College London. So that's so in the first 2 years, it involved a lot of lectures, a couple of placements where you just go and see a few patients every now and again to learn from, speaking to a lot of patients, and then just learning a lot of a lot of science around healthcare, things like genetics, like Sasha does, and so on and so forth. So yeah.
And excuse the question because I don't know the answer. What are you going to be?
I'm going to be a doctor in the end. I've really had a good time, like kind of dabbling into different things. So I remember when I did my work experience with Dr. Ngozi Asagi, who's actually on the call today. So I worked in the NIC unit with her, which was really interesting. So that really intrigued me into pediatrics and kind of looking after children. But then I did a lot of work experience in sports medicine. So that's really driven me into that direction as well. So I think I have like those two options, but sports medicine is definitely the one that I am very passionate about. Yeah.
So will we see you working with football clubs, running onto the pitch to do things?
I'm hoping one day it'll be football clubs and athletics teams. That would be really, really inspiring. I'd really love to do that.
And what would you say to youngsters who want to end up running onto the pitch to look after Marcus Rashford?
I would say never stop trying, which is something that like my parents told me, because I didn't get into medical school the first time that I applied. So I had to take a year out, do some exams again, and then go in again and then try again. And that's how I got into UCL. So I would just say, never give up and never let anybody that's telling you that you can't do something, don't let that be the end. Just keep trying, because I know that's a lot of things that can be the case for a lot of times for a lot of Black students. I remember at school, my head teacher told me that I was never going to be a doctor, and then now I'm a third year medical student. But if I'd listened to her advice, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So yeah.
When do you have to take the final decision as to which area you're going to go into?
With medicine, you actually never have to decide, which I think is great. You can be 50, and it might be harder then, but you can be 50 and kind of want to change your course, and then you just change course and go and do other exams into something else, which I really love about medicine. So I love that you can be as multifaceted as you want in the medical field, but everything's kind of core-rooted into care, which is what I really enjoy about medicine.
Well, Zanny, thank you very much indeed for taking time to be with us. Thank you that you're there and an inspiration to all the other people who look at the doctors and say, I can do that. I can do that. Thank you very much indeed. Wish you all the very best for the future. Maybe in a few years' time, when you've made the decision and we're having another one of these conferences, then you can come up and tell us all about it.
Definitely. Thank you very much.
All the very best. Mm-hmm. Now we have a special presentation. This wouldn't affect me at all, by the way, unless it was beard, I don't know. It's hair braiding, Yemi Hair Boss Boutique, and Aistu Emo, a Khan volunteer, will be looking after this next section. I hope they are ready to go.
Hi everyone, my name is Yemi, co-founder of Hair Boss Boutique. I'm doing a small piece on Black History Month, and Black History Month to me is not just the history itself, but in my line of work is the history of braiding. Braiding the 500 BC. Braid is not just a culture to me, it's also a work of art. You may see that in a few of my work. You may see that on social media, on socialites, on celebrities who emphasize on how braiding makes them look cool, but at the same time, braiding from my background is a protective style, is a form of goddess. There are beautiful Black women who portray such positive and craftsmanship to the art of braid. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Black History Month is to yourself, but this is just my personal view. I've been doing hair since I was a young age, and I'd say roughly around 15 years in experience in Afro hair. And I've gone through going into college and getting my MBQ, getting my diploma, And currently I'm actually teaching hairdressing, and my aim is for my business to become one of the very first Afro hair training academy, which is now open in Manchester. And I'm hoping to include braiding techniques, protective hairstyles, how to maintain your hair, how to look after your hair, how to help your hair grow into a much beautiful Afro locks or relaxed locks. You can see a lot of my work through my Instagram page, which is Hair Boss Boutique Fab on Instagram, Hair Boss Boutique Manchester on Facebook. And I do also have my own lash line, which is Hair Boss Lashes. I know the whole branding, the whole inspiration behind it, it's all done from the kind of Black woman I am. I portray confidence to a lot of my clients, and they are happy and excited to meet me. And I hope that if you guys do come to Manchester, you do come and visit the hair salon as well.
Yemi, thank you very much indeed. As I said, a bit late for me. I could have done with you maybe 15 or 20 years ago, but there you go. Thank you very much indeed. Now for our final STEM case study, Niall Henry is CEO of the Blair Project, and Niall should be with us on the call. Niall, a very good evening to you.
Good evening, Mike.
How are you, sir?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Now, let me start off by asking you, and I think I know the answer, but I'll let you tell us, what is the Blair Project?
So the Blair Project is a vocational and technical training provider that uses the excitement and exhilaration of electric motorsports to inspire and infuse disadvantaged young people to pursue rewarding careers in the digital, tech, and engineering sectors.
How did you start out in this field?
So for me, it was the reason the whole Blair Project exists is that I actually named it after my younger brother. So yeah, he's the inspiration, and the Blair Project is essentially all about, the core mission was to try and make motorsport more affordable, accessible, diverse, and inclusive. So regardless of your gender or background or race, anybody could take part. And so the idea actually came, I just come back from doing a gap year traveling. And I said to my idol, who is my mum, and is also my mentor as well, and she actually does work in the business in the Blair Project as well. So I said to her, I really want to set up my own business. I knew from doing research and watching YouTube videos that when you're setting up a business, you have to do it around something that you're passionate about. And I knew that my passion was traveling, and I'll talk a bit more about my travel adventures later on. So I knew it had to be something around traveling, and she said, okay, well, I'll help you. I'll give you some advice, but yeah, in terms of a business that allows you to travel, what would you like to do? And I remember during that conversation, I turned around to the dining table and I took one look at my younger brother, and my younger brother was a former kart racer. So he competed competitively at a go-kart level. And I said if I could help my younger brother's dream come true of being a racing driver, and a racing driver gets to travel around the world, then I will get to achieve my dream of being almost like his agent or manager, and I would be fulfilling my dream as well. So, and that's the reason, and that's one of the reasons why I set up the Blair Project, because what you'll find is, especially in the world of motorsport, it is one of those sports where it doesn't matter how talented you are, if you've not got the financial backing behind you, you're never really going to excel. So we were meeting a lot of families at a go-karting level who would be spending £35,000 a year for their son or daughter to compete. And then to move on to the next level, you're talking about having to bring in £150,000 a year to race. And that's like a Formula One style looking car level. And that's the entry level of that called Formula 3. And then to move on to the level just below Formula 1, so it's called Formula 2 now, used to be called GP2, you have to bring in around £2 million a year. And so for the average family, that's not financially affordable. So what my goal, my main mission was, what if I can make motorsport a bit like football, where it is about the talent that shines through, and they can somehow find a way that for the people at the top of motorsport to actually support the grassroots, to try and have an opportunity to compete in the sport.
Well, I've seen the film of Mr. Hamilton, young Mr. Hamilton, driving go-karts. And it's absolutely incredible to think that that's where he started and look where he is now. So the work you're doing is absolutely fantastic. Who is your mum?
So my mum, you may know her very well, actually, Mike. It's Dr. Marilyn Comrie.
Yes.
So, yes. So you guys
Marilyn
know
is she's a bit of a legend.
She is. If I do say so, she is a legend. I know she has been obviously she's my biggest idol, my mentor, as well as being my mum. Obviously we work together in the business, so she's like my best friend as well. So, and that's one of the things I would like to say coming out of this meeting, is that I think one of the things, I'm going to talk about successes later on, but I just want to make this point now, is that I think one of the reasons why the Blair Project has been such a success is that we're a family business. So having my mum working alongside me, and not just my mum, my younger brother Blair as well, that's been such a big positive in the business. Because let's say if you set up a business with a friend or somebody that you know, if you have arguments, sometimes that could be the end of the relationship. And
been there.
Yeah. And then obviously, if you're doing it with your family, you can't take that stuff home. You're gonna have to sort your beef out right now, because it can't drag over. And you know what? As a family, we've each got each other's backs, so we're always there to support each other. So I just want to make that quick point.
So can we expect to see Blair in Formula One in a few years' time?
Well, that's the goal. That's the number one goal, is for Blair to have a competitive career. So hopefully get into Formula One, but definitely racing in a car series. One of the ones they're looking at is the Renault Clio Cup, but that is his aim, to have a competitive career in motorsport.
Well, Niall, can I congratulate you on all that you've achieved? You've got an unfair advantage because your mum's awesome. Thank you for that. All the very best. And if people were interested, if there are other mums and dads out there whose kids are showing some initiative, a word of advice.
Yeah, so if you want to have a career, I mean, predominantly what our business does, I'll just give you a quick outline, is that we're a STEM education business. So we go into schools and teach young people how to convert used petrol go-karts into fully electric e-karts that they get to test and race to see which is the fastest, but also the most energy efficient. And it is all about trying to young people who may have low awareness of careers in digital tech and engineering, and basically showing them that, and then showing them the different pathways and opportunities. So especially in Manchester, there's so many jobs in those sectors. And that's what we're all about, is trying to get young people to think of careers in the digital tech and engineering sectors and go and get those jobs. So if any young people have any passions or interests in let's say IT, cybersecurity, graphic design, engineering, tinkering with go-karts, definitely you can either volunteer with the Blair Project or have a look around. I think for me, in doing the career that I was doing, so I started off wanting to be a computer programmer and designing my own video games, and I studied that at college for 2 years, and I came out with a distinction, so top grades. But I decided that I didn't want to go down the path of being a video game programmer. So instead I went traveling, went all the way across to America and Australia, came back home, and then ended up setting up the Blair Project. And I knew, obviously, in my business wanted to be motorsport. But I didn't have an engineering or a mechanical or electrical engineering background. So I made it my business to go and learn, and obviously taking advantage of things like YouTube, and there's loads of free courses out there. Go and have a play around, see if you like it. And if you love it, then go and take it up as a subject at college or university. Or the big one is, rather than even go to university, have a look and see if you can apply for an apprenticeship. And why not get paid to get a degree?
Well, can I thank you very much indeed. I don't need to wish you all the best because you're flying at the moment, and look forward to the next time we talk.
Definitely. Thank you all.
Brilliant. Another STEM case study, that's Niall Henry, who's the CEO of the Blair Project. Our next guest is the Chief Executive of Northern Care Alliance. His name is Raj Jain. Make that Raj Jain. Raj, thank you very much indeed. And if you could give us your presentation, please. Your microphone would seem to be not on. There you are.
That working?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike. And thanks to Charles and Faye for inviting me to this event. I'm delighted to be at a Black History event again. But what I'm not delighted to do is about the fact that everybody's taken my best line. So here's my notes. And you're going to have to now suffer a bit of ad lib from me. But let me say just a few things then, just to perhaps to celebrate the contribution of Black people to this country, and in particular to healthcare. And also a couple of reflections on my own personal experiences in the NHS and in healthcare. So today, there are 70,000 people who work directly in the NHS who identify themselves as Black. That's that's a really big number. There are probably double that who work in the health and care sector, i.e. not working directly for the NHS. We've heard this already during this event today. They are the backbone of health and care in this country. And they were so back in 1948 when the NHS was in dire trouble because it didn't have staff or enough trained staff to set itself up to offer the type of care that it wanted. And ever since that time, Black people remain the backbone of this great NHS that our country is so proud of. But what really brings it to life for me are the personal stories that you experience. So my best lines have gone, so I'm going to use something that's very personal to me and a bit of my own history. I was born in this country, brought up in Liverpool. You can probably hear my accent. And I went to a school where I was the only non-white face in my year. But I had some friends outside of school. One of those friends was Nigerian, Lawrence, and he was my best mate. And he was the first person who invited me to his house in all the time I'd been in this country. I'd never been to another person's house or another friend's house. And I met his mum. His mum, Nigerian midwife, and people will know midwives are formidable. Nigerian midwives are doubly formidable. And for some reason, she took a shine to me. And every time I saw her, she'd give me a cuddle, and then she'd say, "You're a good boy." And then she'd say, "You better go far." And I didn't really know what she meant. And she kept on saying to me, "You better go far." And she would tell me stories about a time coming into this country and some of the difficulties she had. But mostly there were these really positive stories about how the fact that she had trained to be a midwife and that she was delivering babies, and she was so proud of what she did. And she'd tell me these stories, and she'd sit me down with a plate of sticky rice and some goat curry and some plantain, and make me eat the whole plate because she said I would be too skinny. I was too skinny, and and then she would send me home. And Mo, as we called her, she always, at the back of my mind, I always hear her saying, "You better do right. You better do right for yourself, Raj. Get on and do." And why is that relevant today? It illustrates to me the influence, the importance, the vitalness of Black people in our society today, acting as role models. And we've heard again some stories on this where people have been pushed, prodded, encouraged, supported to do the best that they can do. And it's really important to have those role models, and we need more of them. Because we heard Sarah Price then just talk about the lack of diversity in senior positions in the NHS. And I'm actually one of only 8 CEOs in the NHS. And there's probably about 300 CEOs, something something like that. There's 3 of those 8 are from a black background. And I was first appointed to a CEO position 12 years ago. And the position then was that we had 6 CEOs from a non-white background, and now we have 8. So it's got a lot better percentage-wise, but it is appalling to think that the NHS, which has somewhere in the region of 25% of its staff from a non-white background, has only got so few CEOs. So what I'd say on this day in Black History Month, to celebrate Black History Month, is that there was a number of us, albeit a small number of us in the NHS, who have committed to doing something, and that is committed to take direct action to make sure that we're not the only CEOs and senior leaders in the NHS who are from a non-white background. And so when I heard Sasha and Zena talk, my thought was, well, it's my job to get them a senior leadership role in the NHS. It's my job for them to be the next generation that's going to lead the NHS doing CEO roles, doing medical director roles, doing senior health scientist roles. And it's not going to be about policy. It's going to be about individual actions and decisions of people, some of whom we've heard talk today, Evelyn, Andy and Sarah. But probably it's going to take those people, those black and other ethnic minority people, to support their colleagues, to get up those ladders, to get the opportunities that we know they rightly deserve. So the celebration for me is twofold. One is what a legacy to celebrate already. There is just fantastic care, there's fantastic stuff, there's people alive today living much better lives because of black nurses, doctors, therapists, scientists. The other celebration is that I know that there is a mass movement happening that's going to make a difference for the next generation in healthcare and hopefully across our country. Now, I'll stop there, Mike.
Not bad without any notes. Raj, thank you very much indeed for that wonderful presentation, and all power to your elbow. That's Raj Jain, Chief Executive of Northern Care Alliance. We have another pre-recorded video for you now. We had one that looked at hair. We're now going to look at African costumes and Cultureville and African textiles, symbols and their meaning, creative hands. So over to you guys.
Happy Black History Month, guys. My name is Adiola.
And my name is Ronke Jane.
And we are the co-founders of Cultureville. Growing up, we longed to walk into a store and see the bright colours and bold prints that were the hallmark of our African childhood. Unfortunately, nothing like that existed at the time, and it wasn't until Adiola moved to Nigeria that we really got to delve into African prints. She would come back with the most gorgeous African-inspired items, and I would fall in love with them and literally steal them from her. And from that, we deduced that there was a need for people to have access to our gorgeous African fabrics. Yes, Cultureville exists today and is a combination of gorgeous African print patterns and contemporary designs that we see on the catwalk today. We love combining the two, and we make them available through our website, cultureville.co.uk.
Cultureville.co.uk. Get along there and find out all about the work those guys are doing. Messages. I have one here from Bipin Patel. It says, Mike, I have a question for you. If you could go back in time, what single advice would you give to your younger self? Well, we've only got an hour for me to do this, so no, we haven't. Haven't got a lot of time at all. I will say this. I was very lucky with my family. We were born in Carriacou, which is a tiny, tiny island in the Caribbean. And my grandfather, I was brought up by my grandfather and his family. So there were always lots of aunties and uncles, and everybody looked after everybody else. So we were really well looked after, my brother and I. And then my youngest uncle was the coolest dude on the planet as far as I was concerned. He played football, he played basketball, he knew all the girls, and I just wanted to be like him, I have to tell you. And he was just magnificent. He went on to be a lawyer, worked in the Supreme Court in Jamaica. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but I wanted to be just like him. If I can give you one word of advice, if you're at the right age or if you've got kids, is find somebody to inspire them. Those people who we've been hearing from today from STEM are just perfect. And if you can get into those people's minds, I think your kids are going to be okay. Our next guest is another legend of this parish. I've known this guy for I don't know how many decades. He's fantastic. His name is Afzal Khan. He is the MP for Gorton. Afzal is a regular supporter for Khan, and we truly appreciate the contribution he makes several times a year. Since the pandemic, Khan has been holding events every Tuesday and Saturday to educate, empower, and enable the Black community to self-care and prevent some of the health challenges common in the Black community. Afzal Khan will now say a few words and appreciate some of the contributions from our medical and healthcare professional. Councillor Afzal, MP Afzal Khan, thank you for taking time to be with us once again.
Mike, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to join you. And yes, you're right. We go back a long time. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Good. I just saw the slide coming up. I thought, what's happening here? Can I first of all, of course, thank Khan and, of course, my good friend Charles for the wonderful work that they do day in, day out. And of course, like I said, it's a pleasure for me to join you today to mark this Greater Manchester Black History Month 2020, the launch of it. But let me be very honest, I'm disappointed. It's not that I'm not enjoying this, but I very much would have loved to be in person, because I think that feel is totally different. I'm sure many of your other viewers here would also feel same. Last 6 months have been really tough. Manchester is a wonderful city. So much goes on here. The whole summer with all these different festivals, we missed them all. So that human touch I'm missing. So I do hope that we can really get back to normality soon and this whole COVID-19 is dealt with. Of course, when we mark this, it's about celebration. It's about acknowledging the contribution of the Black community, our achievements here. And it's also, I would say, is opportunity to learn and to educate one another. Just tonight, honestly, just going through with all the stuff that you had already planned here, I've already learned so much. So I think it shows really how important this really is for us to celebrate. And of course, we've got to take stock of things as well. So, like a number of other speakers, let me start on a very personal level as well. I came here out of poverty. I was adopted. I came here in 71 as a child, 11-year-old. And then, there's been an amazing journey with lots of challenges, lots of difficulties. I strayed a little bit as well, but then ultimately, kept going, working hard. And here I am. You said counselor. I don't blame you because I was there for 10, 15 years. Counselor, Lord Mayor, executive member, then a European member of Parliament. Probably one of the best highlight was beating Nick Griffin, the British National Party, who was a member of European Parliament, and getting to the European Parliament. And then to become the first BME MP in Manchester's history here. Then again, I would say shadow immigration minister, shadow foreign office minister, and then now the shadow deputy leader of the House. So for my message to the young people is a very simple and straight, and that is this. I always share this. I came into this country without a pound in my pocket. I left my school without any exams, and I usually make a joke at that time. Mike, you'll remember it was O levels. So I usually say I left school with 9 no levels. And then, I worked hard and then ultimately were able to do so many of these different things. So it is possible. This is my message to young people. All you got to do is really aim high and work hard. Both these things are with you and not with anybody else. So that's my message to our young people for the future. This is the way you got to go do it. Don't give up, but keep aiming high. Of course, the other thing is, number of speakers have touched on and how we have contributed here in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to where we are now. And one of the things which strikes me is actually, it's not just this, our contribution. If you keep going back, you will see more and more. And if you look at the Second World War, the First World War, the truth is, had it not been for our sacrifices, for the Black community, the people in the armies, the history may well be different. So there is this whole acknowledgement which needs to be done. It's sad, isn't it? Even today, only 2% of the British people know the contribution of the Black communities in this wars alone. COVID-19, number of the speakers have already sort of touched on this, talked about how this has exposed the deep social and economic inequality that exists. But, we've been feeling this all along. It's just been exposed to the wider society, this whole issue, which needs to be really tackled with. This is also the bit about schools. I think we've seen so much, we've heard so much about this exam results, the predicted grades. Now, I was involved with some of the work here with the quality review. And one of the things actually which really struck me was this, the system of grade prediction, how it goes. While generally speaking, in the most people, the students, their grade prediction is usually done higher. But for the Black students, it's actually done lower. So even the system which the government has put in place, the bottom line is the Black students are getting a double whammy. And so these are, again, it shows you that what the things that we really need to do to make sure that things actually improve, that our young people have those opportunities which they rightly deserve. Of course, there's so much positive things we can even talk about despite the COVID-19 with what has happened and the huge whammy that the Black community has actually got from COVID-19 is the whole contribution on the medical side. They have been at the forefront actually in helping everybody to save people's lives, and they paid it again with their life. If you look at many of the people who are the medical profession who lost their life, they're also from almost all of them are from Black community. So we've been there on that front as well. And in that sense, I suppose I do want to acknowledge the doctors and the volunteers who are engaged with CAN to help the community. There's also the whole issue of solidarity in the community, of helping community, those who are vulnerable, how we have been able to go out there and help those people as well. So I would say, I share the sentiments and the words with our Mayor Andy has said. I do look forward to those civic event and the celebration. I welcome the panel diversity as well. But ultimately, I hope that with the review which is taking place in Manchester, it's about time when we had some Black statues in Manchester as well, to show that the great contribution of this community has made. Then I do hope ultimately, this Black history needs to get into the education system. It needs to be involved with the curriculum. And I would say we need to be pressing now the exam boards that actually they put these questions in the exams. So that way it will force all the schools to make sure they teach this. Because ultimately by teaching this, I think we also deal with this menace of racism that exists, which should not be there in this 21st century. So part of that education system, I would say, would help us with that. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with the key players in Manchester with education, the executive member, as well as in the council officers. Again, it's one of the things that I would be looking at, seeing what we can do in Manchester. How can we make sure that in Manchester we have certain minimum standards of making sure that the Black curriculum is actually introduced, so people in such a rich and diverse city as Manchester basically have a better understanding of the whole contribution. And ultimately, even today you saw this when Keir Starmer asked this question by saying that a Black woman in pregnancy was 5 times more likely to die than a white woman. It really gets to the heart of it. But the answer, you see, ultimately they talk about reviews. And I find that really disappointing. It's not the reviews that we need action. There are 200 review recommendations already sitting there for years. So please don't give us more reviews. We want to see action. And in that sense, I suppose the heart of the message is the equality is everyone's fight. All of us actually need to make sure that the society is fair. And this is how we will have more prosperity and peaceful society. Once again, I want to thank Can, thank Charles, and of course, always pleasure to share the platform with you, Mike. Thank you very much.
Afzal, we're running late, but I'll give you 30 seconds to answer this question. How does one become an MP? What do you look to achieve at the community level?
Well, to becoming an MP, I suppose you need to be involved with, I would say, the politics. So get engaged. Anybody's interested, please get in touch with me. I run courses in the sense of training facilities as well for young people. More than happy to do that. Get selected, become a councillor, and then get an MP as well.
Afzal Khan, Member of Parliament, thank you very much indeed for the good work that you're doing and continue to do, and wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we've got something a bit special. We have a really exciting play to show Women of the Windrush. That's what it's called. Magdalene will introduce us now to this 15-minute performance. Magdalene.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here. My name is Magdalene, and I directed the production you will see this evening. The play consists of 4 actresses, Nicola, Doretta, Jemima, and Michelle. You'll see them on your screen. The performance originally was funded by the Windrush Fund and produced by Louise Dakakodia Education Trust, a locally based charity in Manchester, an organization that works with children and young people in areas of education, employment, and enterprise. Our production, the Windrush Women, backbone of the NHS. This play begins by focusing on recruitment and the journey to England by boat. Overall, it highlights the experiences of women who made that trip. The second half is a reenactment of 4 generations of women from the same family that made an invaluable contribution to the NHS. This evening, you will watch a live, shorter version of a 50-minute production which has been specially prepared for you. We start in the Caribbean.
Claudette! Hey! Hello, my love!
That is not you! Oh my God!
Oh, it's been so long.
You look great.
Oh, thank you. And you look so lovely too, so nice and slender.
We try. How you been, girl? Fill me in.
Oh, really good. I've got some good news for you.
Talk to me.
Well, you remember the recruitment man that came? Well, we're going to go to England.
No.
Yes! Yes, me and Winston. We've decided to go. It's going to be a great opportunity for us. Well, what do you think? Are you going to come?
Are you sure, Dorothy? Because I heard about it, but my family, your family.
Yes, I know. Well, my mother will look after my children, and when we set up there, we will send for them to come.
But how long will it take to settle? And Winston, are you together on this?
Yes, absolutely. The man said there are jobs galore. So I'm going to carry on as a cook in a hospital, and Winston, well, he drive here, so he'll drive one of the buses there. And the man said something about helping us find a place to live. I think he said something like that. But listen, I can't leave my friend over here.
I can't leave my family, Dorothy. I can't.
I'm going to ask you one question. Is there any money here? Is life good here? No, it is not. But the man said life is going to be great over there.
£28 each, though. That's all my life savings.
Yes, I know. We're going to have to beg, borrow, steal to get that money. But you know, Claudette, what they say about the streets of London? They're paved with gold. Let's go and get some of that gold, eh? And start a new life.
You know I can't say no to you.
Oh, so you're going to come?
But you have to convince Errol. We already agreed not to.
No problem. Winston will talk to him. Yeah?
If you say so.
Oh, well, if he say yes, will you say yes?
You know I can't say no to you.
Oh, you make me a happy woman today. Oh, honestly, I'm so happy. We're going to England. We're going to England.
You're not nervous, though.
Yes, yes, of course I am. But the children will have a good education. We will have good jobs. We will have money. Who can refuse offers like that? So, are we going?
Let's do it.
Let's do it!
Did you know people were recruited? Well, Caribbean women and men were recruited by the mother country. They were excited with gold in their eyes and promises of money and a better life. And they made their trip to the UK. Who doesn't want a better life? Let's get on that ship.
Oh Lord, I can't believe that I'm in this queue and I'm going to England. Who's going to look after my family? I don't really want to leave my children. And look at this ship. It's so big.
Hey, listen. They call it the Windrush because everybody rush into England and it's so windy.
Whoa, I can't believe this many people had the same idea as me. Oh my God. My children will be all right. Auntie Lucy and Mom's got them. I am so excited.
I keep thinking about Errol and my children. How are they going to survive without me?
Oh, Claudette, them soon come. Think of it as an adventure.
Oh Lord, my heart is beating so fast I can't breathe. Oh, and look at all these people in this queue. Are we all going to England? Oh Lord.
Where's Dorothy? She said she'd meet me here. That doesn't matter. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go there, make money, come back home and live good. I am so ready for this.
I can't stop thinking about my children. I hope my daughter's going to be all right with her grandmother. Who's going to look after my house? Who's going to look after my family? I'm just so nervous.
Oh my God, my heart is actually beating too fast. Do I want to do this? Of course I want to do this. I am ready.
An adventure. Wow, we're still young enough to enjoy it.
Oh my God, we're getting closer. I'm right by the entrance. I can feel it. Oh, I can hear it. It's so loud. Oh, but what about my children? I am so nervous. But I can do this. I'm a nurse. After all, I'm qualified. And I know that I can do it. And I will always work. And I'm ready. Ingrid?
Here.
Hi. Come.
Are you going to England too?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I am so nervous.
Got nothing to be nervous about. This is the plan. Everything will be absolutely fine, huh?
All right. Come on then. Let's go.
They have said their goodbyes, and with hope and joy and a better future in mind, they left their countries behind. Can you imagine the feeling on that ship?
When you think about the journey on the ship, it wasn't one of sadness or regret. It was electrifying. It was infectious, and it was buzzing with excitement.
The ship sailed for 30 days, calling at Jamaica, Trinidad, Bermuda, and Tampico, collecting workers for Britain.
Many women took risks, leaving their kids behind, hoping to make a better life in England.
From the late 1940s to the early 60s, thousands of men, women, and children left the Caribbean for a new life in Britain. They were encouraged to make this epic journey by recruiters who sold them the idea of a better life in the UK.
Stepping off the ship, feeling the summertime chill in the air, arriving in London town for the first time. Who's waiting for them?
The person who's supposed to meet me is not here. What am I going to do? I better go and find a place to stay. As I drive my case to the next street, I come to a house. And before I even reach the steps, the sign reads,
No blacks.
No dogs.
No Irish.
I attempt to knock at another door. A face appears, closes the curtains, and turns the sign to say,
No vacancies.
No vacancies.
No vacancies.
As I continue on the streets, I am knocked by a group of young men shouting, Go back to the jungle. My life feels like it's faded. The joy I had has been broken. I feel unworthy.
He feels degraded.
She feels ashamed.
She feels abused. Some people welcomed us, and newcomers found accommodation with friends and family. Come on, you can stay with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The dream of a better future started to fade for some. Well, the story continues. Jobs had to be done. A lot of women came and worked in the hospitals, but also in their local communities. You will now hear the story of one of Manchester's heroes.
My name is Mrs. Dakakodia. Some people call me Mrs. D. not only me, but many women come here and done a lot. I was a nurse, an activist, and community leader. And being a nurse back in my day wasn't always that pleasant. These black so-and-sos coming over here and giving us orders, they'd say. Although my experience was challenging, I persevered. And throughout my employment and career, I was involved in many community activities and racial equality issues. Although it was hard, look how far we have come.
There's a saying that in every Caribbean family, there's a nurse or two. Next is a real story of a family who grew and grew in the NHS.
This is my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. I just love that song. Oh, thank you, Jesus. I am Mama. I was born in St. Vincent in 1912. The furthest place that I had ever traveled was to Aruba, where I met and married my husband. We had 8 children. Yes, 8 children. I left to come to Britain in 1962. Leaving my children behind, I flew here. I started working for the NHS kitchens as a cook. And later, I worked on the till as a cashier.
My name is Dolores, and I am one of those 8 children, 4 boys and 4 girls. I went from Aruba to Holland, where I studied nursing. I qualified there. And then in 1963, I went to England to live with Mama in Manchester. I started off as a nurse, and then I became a sister.
My name is Elaine. I am Dolores' daughter and one of 4 children. Now I'm a doctor. To be precise, I'm a neonatologist consultant in the NHS.
I am Tanya, and I'm one of the 4 children. I am a result of 3 generations of doctors working in the NHS. I'm following after my great-grandmother, grandmother, and mother. I am too a student doctor who will work with the NHS.
Through determination and rising above adversity to embrace the future, we are the backbone of the NHS.
We need to remember the good stories and contributions during a hostile environment for some, to build on this legacy. Thank you so much. We have come to the end of our show.
Wait, hold on. Before you go, we have one more thing for you.
Yes, tonight's show has been to commemorate the contribution of the Windrush women to the NHS.
But there is a scandal that threatens our community.
And this poem will highlight the deplorable situation.
Many years ago, they had jobs galore. Well, this was just after the war.
They needed us to nurse the sick and mend the roads, to drive the buses and to pick up loads.
They sent us to work to the underground, and we worked that tube line round and round.
Well, bit by bit, we start to fit in. A few bumps along the way, but nothing too grim.
The swinging 60s came and they liked us a lot, but Enoch Powell in the 70s, well, he changed the plot.
The needs of the country have changed somewhat. and we think they prefer us to go back where it's hot.
So the love affair is over and they want us to go. They say that we are not British citizens and we really should know. Okay, we'll go.
Just give us back the gold and the oil and the diamonds you took.
Then we'll all be square and you'll be off the hook.
And we will be as rich as...
Okay, it's a family show.
Thank you. That's the end, really the end. So I'll pass back to Mike. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, guys. And I think we're supposed to do that when there's been a great presentation. It's in view of applause. Thank you very much indeed. That was wonderful. Now we're going to speak to a guy called Femi Obisesan, who's a Wigan Project volunteer, and he's going to tell us about a little competition we are running on Facebook. Femi.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm going to be posting a set of questions for us. On this segment, we're supposed to be answering a few questions. I must say that I've been challenged so far, and I've had some really good information from this program. So I'll be posting a few questions in the chat box. So we would expect you to put some answers, which will be reviewed later, and we will then pick out the winner of the quiz. So I'm just going to hand over the control back to Mike now, and while I post the questions in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Femi. I must just mention this as well, by the way, talking about the chat box. We have had hundreds, and I mean hundreds of messages in the chat box. Just want to mention this from Zeni Anichi, who made a presentation earlier. She says, if anyone has any young Black people they know in need of guidance about getting into medicine, then please email me. Her address is Zeni, Zenni, Anichi, ENECHI, @outlook.com. Zeni Anichi @outlook.com. And there's another one I wanted to mention. Says, I hope there's a contact list for all these inspirational people. So if there wasn't, we're looking to making it happen, because that's a really good suggestion. Got to wish a very warm welcome now to Mark Fletcher, who's the chair of Greater Manchester Mayor's LGBTQ+ panel. Mark is one to know, and we're grateful to have him here with us as we celebrate the opening of Black History Month. Mark. Hi, Mark, are you with us? Looks as if he isn't. Well, hopefully our next item can be done, because it is a video. We have a special presentation. It's a choir. This choir is just amazing. I saw them at the event that we had at the cathedral for last year's opening of this month. The choir was formed in response to sickle cell and works hard to encourage Black people to donate blood and organs, which is in very short supply. Many of the choir members have sickle cell or family and friends that have the condition. Khan runs a project with the National Health Service Blood and Transplant to raise awareness of organ donation and to encourage people to give as an act of kindness, especially when you no longer need those organs. Please see Khan's brochure for further information. We'll now listen to this amazing choir performing one of their songs. This is the Be Positive Choir and their version of Rise Up.
We call on everyone to rise up. We thank our doctors and nurses and all key workers who put their lives on the line every day. Now is the time for us all to be selfless, seek to value every heartbeat of each person the world over. We all must rise up and save lives by doing right by and for others. Together, we can rise up.
You're broken down and tired of living a life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter. I see it in you, so we're gonna walk it out and move mountain. We're gonna walk it out and move mountain. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, unafraid. I'll rise up, I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, high like a wings. I'll rise up, in spite of the end. I'll rise up, and I'll do this 1,000 times again. Rise up, we can rise up. We can rise up. No matter what you going through, hand in hand we will stand. Rise up, rise up for you. I'll be right there for you. I'll be right there for you. Oh, we can do this together for you.
Absolutely wonderful. The Be Positive Choir, thank you very much indeed to them for putting that together for us. Well, we're nearly at the end. Just before the end, Charles will be coming to give us a thank you to everybody who's been involved this evening. But before that, there was a lot of discussion as to who would be appropriate to round off this event. We wanted somebody of stature. That's what they had to be. I don't think we could have got anybody better than our final guest. He's no stranger to Khan. He's a Lord, that's correct, and needs no introduction. He's been a tremendous supporter and guidance to Khan, and he will be offering some closing remarks. I hope he gets time to tell us how he became a Lord, by the way, because it happened in about 48 hours, if I've got the story correct. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lord Simon Woolley.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Mike. And thank you, Charles. And what a wonderful evening. You know, this time last year, I was with you. I was with you in that beautiful cathedral. And I was thinking about, I mustn't miss my train back home. Charles said to me, listen, brother, you know the Black culture. We have to feed you before you go. And I said, I don't want to miss my train. They said, hold on a second. I think he called Evelyn or one of the team. He said, look, we must get Simon the package. So he goes back on the train with the food that he cooked. And I shared a wonderful evening, got back on the train, opened up my food, and just ate glorious food that I suspect the sisters made, by the way. But I was very happy, and it was a no-brainer for me to be part of this Black History Month session today. And what a wonderful evening. What a wonderful evening on so many levels. And thank you, Charles and the team. Mike, you know, you're a sterling host. You keep things flowing, you can feel your smile, you can feel your heart, your essence. I want to thank you for that. But above all, I want to thank what the organizers have attempted to do tonight. Think about this for a second. You know, normally when you talk about Black History Month, that we focus on food, we might focus on sport, we might focus on music. All of that is beautiful, by the way. But Charles said, no, we need to do more than that. We need to open up avenues, open up opportunities that ordinarily we're not thinking about. And so when I heard that those brilliant, if you like, trailblazers in genetics, our sister Sasha and Dr. Zena said, look, this is for us too. And when we engage, brilliant things happen. Because what we bring to the table is not there unless we are there. Charles, Mike, I love that so much because, you know, this is our country, this is our society. And yet, too often, as many of your speakers have highlighted today, that it's rigged against us. We get herded down a particular path. We get blinded by the opportunities that we deserve. And what you have done today is said we can be bigger than that. We're broader than that. We're bolder than that. We're more creative than what even people think that we can do. And this is what the platform of Black History Month affords us, to come together, to celebrate, but to demand more. This year, 2020, Mike, has been an extraordinary year. A year that unfolded with a global pandemic that a minister in the House of Lords, we'll talk about the House of Lords in a second, if we have time, but the minister in the House of Lords said COVID-19 is a racist disease. And I said to the minister, my honorable friend, that's how you talk in the House of Lords, my honorable friend, this is not a racist disease. No disease is racist. What this disease has done has laid bare facets of our society that are deeply racist. That our brothers and sisters are at the front line. We saw the beautiful play of the Windrush generation that came and gave life, gave birth to the National Health Service. Like my mother who came here in the 50s, gave her best years to the NHS. Her generation built the NHS. Future generations became overly exposed to COVID-19 because they weren't protected. They, along with bus drivers, security guards, porters, nurses, care workers, were at the front line without protection. This disease, this deadly disease, has exposed the inequalities. Along with that, we saw the murder. We saw the brutal murder by law enforcement officers of our brother, George Floyd, dying in 8 minutes in front of our eyes. We had a perfect storm, and this perfect storm convulsed the whole world. And in that convulsion, we took to the streets in Manchester, in London, in Birmingham, in New York, all over the world. Not to ask for justice, not to ask for equality, but demand it. Demand it. We deserve it. We must demand it. And it's changed the game. It must change the way that we look at ourselves. It must change the way that we demand from our society, our government. I am pleased, by the way, of Andy Burnham, who came to me and Charles direct and said this: if Black Lives Matter is to matter, then I want more Black people in my city to own, demand leadership roles. And I've been brought in, and I will develop, nurture, demand, cajole a new generation, Mike, of Black leaders to be in all areas, at all levels of your city. Not because it's the right thing to do, because it's what we deserve. And we are successful when Dr. Zenni and Sasha is successful in their fields. Hear this, Mike. We're all successful. We're all successful. We're all enriched. We're all touched. We're all moved. Part of me regrets that when I came on to the space, there's about 120, and now there are only 76. But Mike, I'm an activist. I'm used to traveling around the country, and I will speak to one man and his dog if we can make a difference. I am speaking to 76 activists, disciples of Dr. Martin Luther King. Elaine, Mohammed, I can see some of your names. Remember this. Yes, Mohammed, wake up. What's the matter with you, brother? Dr. King, in his 63rd anniversary of that wonderful dream, Mohammed, Elaine, Mike, he had more than a dream. He had a plan. And step one of that plan was to empower African Americans to be in a situation where we're not asking for justice, we are demanding it. I am saying to all of you, 76 disciples of Dr. Martin Luther King, join me arm in arm, like they did on that walk in Selma, Alabama, crossing the bridge. You join me in that march. And I promise you that the arc of justice bends towards us. We are God's people. We are the moral majority. We have the spiritual majority. We have the creativity majority. By the way, this is our time. Now, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of owning your leadership role. If you want, Mike, you tell them Simon says. Simon says, own your leadership role. I'm coming to Manchester with a leadership scheme. I want to queue around the corner, around the block. I'm telling you, you'll be genetics like Sasha, like Zena. I'm telling you, you'll be MPs. You'll be councillors, you'll be magistrates, you'll be school governors, you'll be business entrepreneurs. You'll be like Mr. Shaft, super cool. And I promise you this, we'll change our world. We'll change our world. Embrace today, love today. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Charles. But in the morning, you look in the mirror and you ask but one question. In changing our world, what's my role? Thank you, Brother Mike.
Lord Simon Woolley, Can I say what an inspirational presentation that was? Thank you very much indeed for taking time to bring that to us today. We are almost at the end. Just got to introduce Charles Kwaku Adoy, who's part of the management team of Khan, who's going to give a vote of thanks. Charles.
Thanks a lot, Mike. Well, on behalf of the board of directors, I want to say massive thanks, to all our amazing volunteers who continue to give their time, and support our work, and especially all the time that is gone into planning this virtual event. It's been challenging, but, we made it. So thanks to our volunteers. We also want to acknowledge all our civic and senior leaders and guests for the ongoing support of the work that Khan does. And for our presenters, the STEM contributors tonight, Daniel, Sasha, Zeni, and Niall, we really, salute you and we say massive thanks for your input and the inspiration you give to our young people. And to the women of Windrush performers, we are thankful for your contribution. And then to Cultureville and the hair people and other businesses that have contributed, we're really grateful. So also we want to extend a special thanks to our community, our Black community within Greater Manchester and beyond. Without you, the work we do, wouldn't go anywhere. So we're really grateful. And finally, massive thanks to all the staff team. You've given your all. You don't do 9 till 5. You work all round the clock. And really, really grateful for all your input. And to my fellow directors, thanks for making the event happen. To Dean Rogers Govinda, our patron, thanks. You offered us the cathedral, but we couldn't use it. We're really grateful. And to Lord Simon Willie, we're really grateful for the support you give us, whenever we pick the phone, whenever we call you. And for having put your weight behind our work, we're really grateful. And what can we say to our legend, our great supporter, Mike Shaft, you always, there, and we can get you a short notice, although you're really busy. We're really grateful for that. And then finally to Adewumi Adisa, for all the technical support and that you've given to the rest of the team. We're really grateful. So thanks once again. We've shared the event program, in the chat box. Please, go through it and we will email copies out. But we're really grateful to our nurses who continue to give their time, and to the medical doctors and health professionals who, since beginning of May, every Saturday morning, they give free time to engage the community. So we're really grateful for all you do to support our community. Thank you. You can see some of the feedback, within the, event program. And then finally to our funders, without whom, Khan wouldn't be doing what we're able to do. We've set up a counseling service. It's a Black-led one, qualified counselors, giving support to our community. We're really grateful for all you do. And thanks to all our funders. It's been hard work, but we're really grateful for your support. So thanks, and I'll hand you back to Mike.
Charles, thank you for all the hard work that you and Faye do as well. I have to say, I've been in this game for a very long time. And you turn up, you do it, you go home. That's one of my mottos. Tonight has been one of the most inspirational events I've had the pleasure of being to. Those guys from STEM, honestly, I was sold on them. And then Lord Woolley, I don't know what I can say. Thank you for being an inspiration to everybody and to me as well. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully, and this is where the technicals get a bit difficult, we should be able to have this online on Facebook within the next few hours, let's say that, or the next day. And we should be able to see a lot of the feedback as well that we've had, which has been spectacular. Thank you to everybody who sent messages in. Obviously, we can't read them all. We've had 300 or 400 messages. Thank you all very much indeed. Thanks to everybody who were involved in doing this. We're going to finish off now with some steel band music, MSV Steel Band. I hope they're ready and hope you enjoy this aspect of tonight. Thank you and goodbye. Goodbye.